All right, Immaculate, ACC. I mean, we've had this conversation about them falling apart since it's been months, 3 months or more of, all right, Florida State wants out. There's a clear 7-7 divide, it feels like. Then the Stanford, the Cal, all of this stuff that's gone down. Now with some of the big dogs in college football meeting together as we speak, what does the future of the ACC look like up to the minute?
That's a really good question. Talk about the ACC has been going on for a while, and that's because of the amount of value that's there and the fact that they got the two big dogs, the Big Ten and the SEC, that would both be interested. It really wasn't taken too seriously until what happened with the Pac, and that made everyone kind of open their eyes and go, oh, this is real.
Yeah.
In terms of how it goes and where it goes, we're all kind of sitting on the edge of our seats right now. Florida State has pretty much broken all kind of accepted decorum in what they've done. It's been quite the show when you have all of your sports media watching moment to moment on a board of trustees meeting and giving play-by-play from that. That's unprecedented. And quite frankly, this whole situation is unprecedented. I've never seen realignment talk, consolidation talk push into the football season. That just does not happen. So the fact that we're still getting that means they are in an accelerated timeline. So when you see something like a Florida State, a Clemson, and a North Carolina keep their, shall you say, straw poll vote, keep it into the public vote, when normally, even if you're voting no on something, if you don't like it, on your public-facing vote, you make it look like you're unanimous. That's just kind of how business goes. They didn't do that this time. When it came to voting in Stanford, California, and SMU, they kept their public-facing vote no. Now, could they use that in future legal situations? I don't know. Yep. It's just very unprecedented. So obviously they're doing it for some reason. We're going to find out. But there seems to be some smoke there.
Where there is smoke, there is certainly fire, Immaculate. And I have one of the things that I've heard is, Clemson, if they jump, if UNC jumps, if you're looking up and Florida State's gone, that now you're saying, okay, do you go after a Tulane? I mean, I've heard even people in our camp say a Tulane, or where does the ACC try to expand from there? Because they know they can't poach Big 12 teams. They certainly can't poach SEC or Big 10 teams. So they seem stagnant. And that word stagnant is not going to go over well for Pitt or Louisville or Virginia Tech. Is there a chance that those programs find themselves in the Big 12 come even, we'll push it back a bit and say 2030?
Okay. I think there's a chance. The play here seems to be they brought in Stanford, California, and SMU in advance. When you start to see numbers correlate 3 and 3, you bring in 3, there's 3 that want out. You start to wonder,
Yeah.
And when you see that they're talking about how having 15 schools is what is in the deal in order to maintain without a renegotiation, it starts to say, okay, so they're playing to try to have the 15 so that they can argue when ESPN comes trying to renegotiate that they are meeting the terms of the contract, that there is full and proper consideration given, that nothing in the contract is about the value of a team or a school, but just merely in the number and the content provided to ESPN. And so that looks like what they're doing is that they're preparing the way ahead of time so that they don't actually drop below that number. So could those schools leave? I think it depends upon if they win that argument. But just in terms of eyeballs and viewage on it, you got to think that, it might be better to move to another conference, like a Louisville is looking at that, or you're looking at a conference like the Big 12 where there's going to be competition across the board, and you have 2 local rivals in Cincinnati and West Virginia. I got to say that there's a good chance.
What's interesting to me about this, that I think it hurts the Big 12. It's objective. It hurts the Big 12. The lack of big dogs, the lack of power teams. Because you look at the ACC, you see Clemson, you see Florida State, who won out, but they still are in the ACC and they still have that brand. When you see Big 12, do you see an issue with the fact that there is more quantity over quality when it comes to competitive value?
Yeah, no. This is where I differ from a lot of big voices out there. And maybe I'm wrong, but what I'm seeing is that everyone is going away from all 5 conferences trying to do the same thing. Because when all 5 conferences are trying to run the same model and do the same thing, of course you're going to have winners and losers. It's just how it is.
Right.
So I think where we're going now is from 5 to 4, and each conference is a different model. So you have kind of a different product that you're providing. Now you have the Big Ten is going to be the premier coast-to-coast conference. That's pretty obvious.
Yep.
The Southeast Conference is going to be in the Southeast, and it's going to provide to the people there who want their specific regional brand, and that brand is a national brand, so they're just fine. The Big 12, it's kind of this next tier down, but it's not in a bad way. It's kind of these teams who struggled against the major brands year in, year out. Now, does that make them more valuable to constantly be that team that's struggling against that, or are they more valuable now when you can be in a conference where you never know who's going to be the power of the year? I personally find that more interesting. Maybe I'm wrong, but I like that they are now something different, something unique. And I think that that's going to possibly be the case in the future with the ACC as well.
I hope so. And I almost hope that some of these other leagues are dominated by 2 or 3 teams, as they have been for the last couple of decades, a la Ohio State, Alabama. And if you look at the Big 12 as the only conference with true parity, and that drives viewership. I'm like, I hope I'm not the maniac that thinks that's something good for the Big 12, and the rest of college football will see it that way. And speaking of the rest of college football, the landscape changing, all this playoff stuff, let's go. The new 12-team playoff. If you 1 year earlier, immaculate, it would have benefited.
It's been a good one.
Would have benefited the Big 12 and college football so much. Let's do that here on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Next.